Hi everyone, welcome to another chatty video. I tried this last week and it went well, so I thought we would try another one again. I was just thinking about some books that I wanted to read and I realized I had a few that some of them have been on my list for a while and some are more recent, that are very obscure books. So I have collected 5 of these that I want to mention for you and talk about them. I have been more than one comment. Several people have told me I have eclectic taste in books, which is just a nice word for reading, for saying that my reading is oftentimes very chaotic. I read a lot of different subject matters, at least, different genres oftentimes, but I'm just sort of all over the place at the same time. Sometimes there's a bit of a pattern and sometimes I'm just really chaotic in my reading. And I think sometimes that hurts me, especially on BookTube, because I don't have much of a niche and I know that would help me a lot. But the thing is, I am an intensely curious person and my curiosity is usually the thing that is dictating what I'm wanting to read. And she is flippant. My curiosity is very spontaneous and sometimes will just take a very sudden right turn and will just, suddenly I'll be very infatuated with some new thing. And that comes out in my reading. So if you're into that, then good thing you're here and we should be friends. If not, then I don't know why you're watching this video, because this is going to be that idea of chaotic, eclectic reading, and then even more so, because these are very random books. Yeah, random. All of the books on this list, I would say, are a little bit niche. They are not going to have general appeal, but then they're also obscure because they have very few reviews on Goodreads, which I am using to presume that they are not widely read. Yeah, so that's the premise of this video. Side note, I am not in my house. For any of you curious people, nosy people, that's how I am when I watch videos. If people have changed their background, I want to know if they've moved. I have not moved. I'm just not in my house. That's it. That's the whole story. So anyway, yeah, let's dive into this book. I'm gonna start with the book that is the least obscure. It has the most reviews on Goodreads or ratings. And this is The Power Book by Jeanette Winterson. And this has 4,500 ratings. Jeanette Winterson is not, I would not say she's an obscure author. I think Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit was written by her. I definitely heard of that one now and then here on BookTube. But this book is one of her older books, and I don't believe it is well read. Why do I keep saying that? Widely read. And this I came across because I was doing some research on internet books, internet novels, internet literature, I think maybe is what they called it. And the article argued that The Power Book was the first ever internet book, which is very fascinating because it was written in 1994. I'm having a hard time understanding exactly what this is about because of the premise from the book description, understanding what its premise is, but it seems to be an e-writer who will write stories, but you must be prepared to enter the story. And it has to do with shifting dimensions and multiple realities. I feel like this could be a really interesting idea. I am mostly intrigued by the concept of this book because of the fact it was written in 1994. I should have mentioned this earlier, but if you're confused what internet book means, it is definitely a definition that the literary community is still sorting out, but no one is talking about. This is a really very quintessential example of an internet book. I think Fake Accounts, which I haven't read yet, is also a very internet book. I think those are the only ones I've read. I've read a lot of books that are sort of about the internet, or maybe speculative fiction relating to the internet. Maybe I haven't read a lot of them. I just have a strong interest and have done a lot of research on them. But I really want to read this book for that reason, because it's a little bit different angle to a subject matter that I've mentioned before here that I'm really interested in, which is the intersection of the internet and literature. So yeah, that book sounds really interesting to me. If you've read it, I would love to know what you think about it. My interest is primarily curiosity is really driving my interest in reading that book. Okay, so the next one that I am interested to read is The Road to Oxiana by Robert Byron. And this book I came across because I'm almost done with The Silk Roads by Peter Frankopan. And, that obviously is about the Silk Roads through Asia. And that made me curious on more books that sort of take place in that setting. And this book is about, I don't know if it's a memoir so much as like a travel journal about the author's experience traveling through the Middle East in 1933. He goes via Beirut to Jerusalem, Baghdad, and Tehran to Oxiana, which apparently is or was on the borders between Afghanistan and the Soviet Union. This is published in 1937. I've heard that this book is really beautifully written, and, just the intersection of the subject matter and it being beautifully written highly intrigues me. But I also am just really enthralled by the idea of reading okay, I'm trying not to anger Edward Said and like romanticize this, but it just seems like such an incredible experience to be able to wander around this area of the world, backpack, travel around casually this area of the Middle East at a time where it was peaceful, or at least like significantly less civil distress than there is now. And, I think that's obviously primarily sad for the people who live there right now, that their countries have suffered so much violence. And so I don't mean to make it about me, that like I'm sad that I don't get to experience that, but it seems just like so really devastating for the culture of humanity that this area of the world that is so rich in world history is, not only is so much of that cultural history destroyed and still being destroyed by so much unrest in this area, but it deprives so much the world of that culture, being able to like experience it by traveling there or having more access to that history and culture. It's not about me, but I really wish I could experience that. That seems just really, really amazing. I'm really intrigued by that area, by history, etc., etc. So anyway, that's one of the reasons I really want to read that book. So, another book that I likewise want to read in part for sort of rectifying my education, because I feel like the Middle East, as an American, when I've learned about the Middle East, it has primarily been in context of the United States, like where Middle Eastern history is relevant to the United States, which makes it very contemporary, which is just really dumb because the history is so there's so much history for so many millenniums to really only focus on the last 50 years, even 40 years of the Middle East is really regressive. But anyway, point is, another book that sort of fills in gaps of my historical knowledge is Wounded I Am More Awake, Finding Meaning After Terror by Julie Lieblich and Esad Boskailo. I'm not sure how to say that. I know that the book is about Esad and his experience, and then it is written by Julie Lieblich, who is a journalist. And this is the experience of Esad, who was a doctor during the Bosnian War, and or the Croatian War? Oh my gosh. I think it's like the Bosnian War, right? And he survived 6 concentration camps. And I know that he eventually came to the United States and he becomes a psychiatrist, and somewhat in the fashion of, what's his name? It says here, Viktor Frankl. Yeah, Viktor Frankl. And what is that book called? The Man's Search for Meaning. I learned about this book in college in a 20th century European history class, and we had to read an excerpt from this. a chapter from this, and I was really captivated by it, and I desperately wanted to read more of it. And that was several years ago. I think the primary reason I haven't read this book yet is because I haven't been able to find a copy of it other than buying it. And if I haven't looked it up recently, but if I remember correctly, it wasn't cheap because there aren't very many copies of it. It only has 39 ratings on Goodreads. So it really is quite obscure. But I remember being really captivated by the chapter of it that I was required to read. Anyway, I realized maybe the camera's shaking a little bit because I keep on hitting the table. Sorry about that. I'm going to try and not do that. Okay, the next one. This one plays into my art history niche, my love of art history. The next book of my obscure random books is Lost, Stolen, or Shredded: Stories of Missing Works of Art and Literature by Gekoski. I should have practiced these names before I started filming. This book only has 149 ratings and 26 reviews. I heard of this book from Mary Rose, who is, she used to make videos here on BookTube as well, and she was the queen of art content. She read a lot, and she read a lot of art content. She doesn't make videos at the moment, though hopefully she comes back. We would love that. This book is, sorry, I keep on getting distracted, not looking at the camera. This book, I think, is sort of self-explanatory. It is just like different case studies of when art or literature has gone missing, and sometimes when it was destroyed, which is really sad, but I think it's a really important sort of facet of art history to pay attention to, the destruction of culture. Sometimes it's just like random reasons that something gets destroyed. Other times it has a lot to do with like genocide and the destruction of a people's culture. I don't know that this book gets into that as sort of like systemic destruction of art, but when art is being destroyed is sort of a really significant thing to pay attention to, in my opinion, because that erasure of culture is usually motivated by something that we should be paying attention to. Anyway, I'm really intrigued in this book for that reason, and to see the different examples of art and literature that he pays attention to, especially because I love art and I love literature. So a book that pays attention to both those things sounds amazing. The reviews also make it sound as though the case studies are somewhat independent, so you can sort of like dip in and out of the book or read it in any order that you want. And I like the idea of that. And then the last book that I have on this list is this one is a bit odd to me because I would say it is obscure. But also, the little description here says that it is a classic of historical fiction. So it is The Cloister and the Hearth by Charles Reade. And this book was written in 1861. And it takes place in, medieval Europe. I don't think it has a date. It takes place in medieval Europe. So I think that that's why it's obscure, is that it's supposed to be a very, very great historical fiction novel. But I think because it's so old, it is not as well known now today, but is like a classic of the genre. I don't know. I haven't read it yet, but that's what I'm gleaning from this. The novel focuses on a young scribe and his love for the daughter of a poor scholar. And the book is almost 800 pages long, so I don't know if this is going to be, exactly if it's, how much it breaches beyond like a romance. But I think it would just be very interesting to read sort of a historical fiction novel that was written like 150 years ago. And this book description says that the writing style was very medieval and archaic even for the 19th century readers. So it feels, I'm just kind of projecting that the author sort of did a really good job of capturing that medieval feel. And from someone doing that 150 years ago, I don't know. I don't know if that like makes them more accurate, or if our contemporary knowledge has maybe made us better at being accurate in our because of research and access to more research tools. Also, 1860, that would be Victorian era, right? From what I understand, the Victorians really like to bash on the medieval era, the medieval people, and make them seem like a lot more like backwards and like educationally digressive. Like the term Dark Ages comes from the Victorians, right? And some of those not accurate descriptions of the era, of the medieval era, come from Victorians that made them sound a little bit less technologically advanced than they really were. I mean, there was a lot of technology lost during the Middle Ages, but anyway. Yeah, this one feels particularly obscure, to be honest with you. The Cloisters and the Hearth. Have any of you heard of it? Because that one sounds really random to me, but the 700 pages puts me off, but I also really, really want to read it. Anyway, now I'm really starting to ramble, so we better wrap up this video. Really, that's it. That's it for this video. I just want to talk about those 5 random and obscure books, because I think it's really fun to find books that are potentially like hidden gems. You know, I haven't read any of these, so I don't know. Maybe they'll be flops, but maybe they'll also be books that are like really underhyped and really underrated because they've just sort of fallen off the radar, and not because of lack of quality. They just, I don't know, they're just kind of obscure. I think it kind of makes reading a little bit fun. It's makes a little bit more of a gamble, but it can be all the more satisfying for that reason too. Do you guys, because you watch my content, are you also very eclectic in your reading tastes? And if so, I would love for you to drop in the comments. I don't know, tell me a book that you think is very random that you are excited to read, or a bit obscure that you're excited to read or looking forward to, or possibly a book that you have read which is obscure and you want to recommend to all of us. That would be fun. I think that would be a fun little collection of books down there. So anyway, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in another video. Bye.